Okay, I show 1 o'clock. Okay, we'll go ahead and call to order the Finance Committee meeting for today. I see the agenda. Thank you. May we have a call to order? A roll call.
Chairperson Forte,
Present.
Commissioner Davis,
Present.
Commissioner Einhauser, Commissioner Einhauser does plan to join, but he is not present currently. However, we do have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Mr. Riggs, we'll go ahead and proceed with the first item of business, which is to approve the agenda for today's meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I'll support it. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
That motion has been approved. We'll move ahead to the approval of the meeting minutes. It says March 12th, but I believe that is a typo. I'm going to ask Mr. Riggs, is that the meeting minutes for last week?
Chairperson Forte,
Yes.
because it's a special meeting, we had to approve the Finance Committee special meeting from last year.
From last year. Thank you, 2025. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Just so happened to be the same date, day. Is there a motion to approve last year's meeting minutes?
Madam Chair, I move approval of the meeting minutes of March 12th, 2025.
Thank you. I support that. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion has been approved. And now we'll move on to public participation. And if we can provide the preamble before we launch into participation.
To make a comment, please raise your hand by using the raise hand icon on your desktop or mobile device using the Zoom app. If you are calling into the meeting by phone, press *9 to raise your hand. During public comment, after your name is called, you will be given permission to unmute. In order to begin speaking, you will have to unmute yourself. To do so, press the unmute button, which is the microphone icon, if you're online or on the Zoom app, or *6 if you're calling in. At the beginning of your comment, please share your full name and the community or neighborhood you live, work in, or are representing. The timer will start after your introduction. You will have a limit of 3 minutes to make your comment, and please keep your comments to public comment. This is not an opportunity to request information or data, which can be done through the city website and Legistar. If you make a comment, and in order for DWSD staff to follow up with you, we kindly request you complete the comment card link located with the Board of Water Commissioners meeting event posted on the DWSD homepage at detroitmi.gov/DWSD. You will only be called upon once. Once the chair closes public comment, there will be no other comments from the public, and all attendees will remain muted for the duration of the committee meeting. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. This point in time, we will open public participation. Do we have any members of the public wishing to comment?
Madam Chair, we do. Just one housekeeping item real quick, is that I do notice that there are a few members of the Board of Water Commissioners, as well as some of our staff members that are normally panelists in this meeting that are actually attendees. So just as a reminder, gentle reminder, that you should log in as a panelist if you plan on speaking openly today. We do have one hand that's raised, Madam Chair. That is Cecily McClellan. Cecily McClellan, you can unmute yourself at this time.
Thank you. Welcome, Ms. McClellan. The floor is yours.
Cecily McClellan. We the people of Detroit, thanks for this opportunity to speak. And these are just some general comments about the budget and how it's composed. It is my concern that the city of Detroit or DWSD is not receiving the budget amount that it should receive for the water affordability program. 4.5 million from GLEWA is insufficient for the population here in the city of Detroit. And I truly believe that it should be increased, based on the service area in which they are now providing services to that once was provided through DWSD. I think that, one area that needs to be reconsidered is also the lease agreement. I've shared maybe more than once that there has been a study that was issued in, I think it was 2019, done by the Haas Institute of Berkeley. One primary person was Dr. Powell, and it really talked about equity in terms of DWSD and the lease agreement. And in that study, it found that based on the size and capacity of the city of Detroit system, that the lease agreement is grossly inadequate. They estimated that it should be somewhere around 218 million on an annual basis to lease a system of Detroit's size. If those resources were being provided to the city of Detroit, a whole lot more could occur in terms of infrastructure, in terms of water affordability. This lease agreement was created out of the bankruptcy. And during that bankruptcy, you had emergency manager. And it was not done at the best consideration for the residents of the city of Detroit or DWSD for that matter. So I think that that is one avenue that needs to be strongly considered, that there needs to be a renegotiation of this lease agreement. 50 million is inadequate, particularly when the city of Detroit residents are paying, I think, 17 million of that 50 million. So it's not even 50 million, it's like 33 million. And so those are my comments. And I think that this is a consideration that should be taken into consideration to increase the funding to the city of Detroit and DWSD. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. McClellan, for your very thoughtful and researched comments. I see that Director Brown has come off mute. I didn't know if you had any other comments to add.
No, just that I share her concerns, and I appreciate that she's expressing them.
Thank you. Is there any other member of the public who wishing to make comment at this time?
Madam Chair, there is another hand that's raised, Norel Hemphill. Norel Hemphill, you can unmute yourself.
Thank you, Ms. Hemphill. The floor is yours.
Peace and blessings. My name is Norel Hemphill. I serve as the Legal and Public Policy Manager at We the People of Detroit. Thank you for this time for us to speak. I would like to echo everything that Ms. McClellan said. To date, since we've been engaged with DWSD and monitoring this budget hearings, we have not heard an ask from City Council even for funds to be appropriated to water affordability. This is a missed opportunity. Along with the renegotiation of the lease agreement, there's other avenues that we can look for funding for affordability programs. We see funding in the mayor's budget and city's council's budget for housing, for transportation and other basic needs. We know that water is a human right. As more people have an affordable water rate that they can pay, they will pay that rate. We saw with Lifeline, as Director Brown said, it was a very successful program. And then we did have people who were able to pay into that program. In that program, one of the things that's alarming, though, as we are in Lifeline H2O now, is that over 90% of those who were in Lifeline were in the first tier, meaning they made from 0% to 135% of the federal poverty level. Many of those people are now without access to a low-income water program. While that was a great assistance program, we definitely need to be moving toward water affordability. And one of the key foundational pieces of water affordability is sustained funding. So I think we got to get creative and figure out how we're gonna make sure that the residents and citizens of Detroit have water. Um, we continue to have increasing um, threats to our water access and our water resources, and I think it's really the right thing to do for public policy, for our public health. Um, it's really an affront to God to deny people water. So, and it's good for you. You know, it's good for us to make sure that we have water and our neighbors have water. So, you know, if having water and providing water at a just rate, an affordable rate for low-income residents and those who are most vulnerable, the least of the, does not appeal to you, just do it for yourself. Do it so that you can stave off sickness in yourself and your family. Because shutting off water is a public health concern. We've seen what happened in COVID, where Detroit was made up when Detroit made about 40% of the deaths in the state of Michigan. So again, we are advocating for clean, safe, and affordable water. As this is budget session and we have the budget hearings, let's go to City Council and request that from them. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Is there any other member of the public that wishes to make a comment?
Madam Chair, at this time, there are no other attendees that have their hands raised.
Madam Chair, can I just make one comment?
Yes, please.
Yeah, look, I just want to make sure everybody understands that I advocate for dollars for the Lifeline program in every room that I'm in. And that I respectfully say that the Honorable Mary Sheffield has a lot of competing sources for the few dollars that are available to her. So I support the budget that she's presented. With that said, I think that we have to continue to look outside of taxes and rates in order to support the program. But I don't want anybody to believe that in whatever room I'm in, I'm always going to advocate for additional dollars. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments, Mr. Director. Appreciate those. Okay, at this point in time, seeing no other comments, we will close public participation and continue down the agenda. Item 6 is communications. We have none. Item 7 is unfinished business. We have none. We'll now move into new business. And the first item is item A, 2026-65. May we have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move that the Board of Water Commissioners for the City of Detroit Water and Sewage Department approves the proposed two-year operating budgets for the fiscal years 2026-27 and 27-28 for the Water Operating Fund in the amounts of $156,789,300 and $165,712,300 respectively, and for the Sewage Disposal Operating Fund in the amounts of $386,999 and $405,518,600 respectively, and further authorizes the Director and Chief Financial Officer to take such other action as may be necessary to accomplish the intent of this vote.
Thank you. I support that motion. And we do have our sponsor here, CFO Istakar Rahman, and I'll turn the floor over to him.
Okay, good afternoon, Commissioners. Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Istakar Rahman, Chief Financial Officer, DWSD. This special Finance Committee meeting today is to present the DWSD's final operating budget and the rates and schedule of fees for fiscal year 2027.
Mr. Rahman, thank you. I just wanted to point out that we have Chairman Einhauser who has joined us. Thank you.
I was trying very hard to get into Microsoft Teams.
Thank you. Sorry for the interruption.
No problem.
Sorry.
No problem. Good afternoon, Mr. Eisenhower. Okay, so we'll start with budget consideration. We do it every time, just to give a very high level description of what our objectives and our intent is. This is the slide you have seen before, but I want to repeat it because every meeting stands on its own. So I'll go through these slides in that order. So when we prepare our budget, there are a few considerations that are very important for us. Affordability is a very key consideration to keep rates affordable for our citizens here. Our goal every year is to keep rate increases below 4% and also support water conservation initiatives. Top of our list is also customer service. We believe in compassionate and responsive customer service to our citizens, not ignoring public health, operations that support and preserve public health. A key goal is to meet or exceed all our federal, state, and local regulations. Employee and asset safety, we have a lot of infrastructure assets and our precious employees that the safety of them is critical while we work on the budget. And of course, our employee focus, training, retention, and recruitment of talented and competent employees is certainly a key factor. So here's a high-level highlights of this year's budget. FY 2027, as you'll see as I go through the slides, our revenue requirement this year is a 4.3% proposed increase, or roughly $22.5 million revenue requirement system-wide. Now, that doesn't mean that's the rate increase, but it's just a system-wide revenue increase over last year. A few components that make up this revenue requirement. Departmental or direct expenses is projected to increase by $6.1 million, about 5.5%. Non-departmental or indirect expenses, and I'll go through these in my slides later on, increased by 3.3%, roughly about $13.5 million over FY 2026. We also have the third component, which is called the revenue finance capital, and that's projected to increase at a modest $3 million. So the increase in revenue requirement of $22.5 million in 2027 is primarily due to increases in Great Lakes Water Authority's wholesale charges. You see the $22.5 million, $13 million out of that is GLWA's wholesale charges for us. That accounts for 57.8 million, 8%, 57.8% of the $22.5 million. The second big increase this year is personnel expense, which would include salaries, benefits, as well as wages. That's increasing by $4.8 million, roughly 21%. As I mentioned in my preliminary budget presentation in February, we are adding 15 new FTEs or new positions to our workforce. And these new additions are primarily for operations and are very critical to DWSD improving its service level as well as to catch up on backlog work. So this overall increase an overall system requirement of $543.8 million is offset by non-rate revenue of $24.1 million that results in a rate revenue requirement of $519.7. If you compare this rate revenue requirement to last year, it's 4.9% increase. Again, the 4.9% increase is not necessarily a rate increase. This increase is offset by increase in volume as well as meter counts that we are projecting for FY 27. On an average, we are projecting between 1% to 2.5% of increase, whether it be water volume or meter counts. This eventually will offset the rate increase of 4.9%, and we end up with a 3.5% increase on a system-wide basis. So at the end of this budget presentation, you'll see that DWSD is proposing a 3.5% increase in rates across the system to recover the revenues that we require to operate the system and also meet the budget considerations as on slide 2. From here on, it's all numbers, basically giving you a summary of how these numbers were arrived at and how the rates were finally arrived. Now, what makes up the revenue requirement, as I said, are those 3 components. And I might be repetitive at times, but I just don't want to miss any point, so we'll go through it. So as I said before, there are 3 main components that make up the revenue requirement: direct and indirect expense and revenue finance capital. And how is this revenue requirement being financed? We finance it through 2 different sources. One is retail revenue, and we'll go through what makes up retail revenue a little later, and non-retail revenue. At the bottom of this slide, you see what percent increase in each of these 2 systems that we have. For the water fund, we are increasing by 5.1%, and for the sewer fund, it's 4%. Here is the graphical presentation of the various components of our system requirement. As you see here, non-departmental expenses make up 77% of our rate structure, of our revenue structure. Departmental expense follows it with 22%. This slide is a breakdown of all our direct expenses, also called departmental. As can be seen, salaries, wages, and employee benefits make up the biggest increase compared to FY26. Again, we did increase our FTEs. Also, we implemented a new compensation study to make our compensation competitive with the world outside. So there's little impact of that on our salaries and wages. And also there was an increase in fringe benefit rates that we get from the city of Detroit. Next slide is a graphical one to explain that salaries and wages make up 41% and employee benefits 13%. Together 54% of our direct expense structure is made up of these 2 components. This is the indirect cost breakdown. As I mentioned before, wholesale charges make up the majority of the increase. Here, looking at the change, we had a total of $13.4 million in change. $13 million out of that is due to increase in wholesale charges from jail. You'll also see a small increase in pension cost by $981,000. This is totally based on actuarial report that computes our pension obligation and our required pension contribution every single year. Breakdown, wholesale charges. You see the big blue chunk here, 62% of our indirect cost is made up of wholesale charges. And on an overall basis for all expenses, wholesale charges make up nearly 48% or 47% of our total revenue requirement. But if you focus just on the indirect cost, it makes up 62% of that pie. Post-bifurcation and pre-bifurcation are also important expenses that we have no control over. This is the previous slides. I'm still on the previous slide. Yeah, thank you. So post-bifurcation and pre-bifurcation, again, are pretty sizable amount of money, but these are costs that we have no control. We are paying for our debt service on pre-bifurcation debt, as well as the money that we borrowed after the bifurcation. This include principal and interest payments. Sorry, Tamara, next slide now. Okay. And I mentioned before, there are 2 sources of revenues that support our requirements. And you've seen this slide many times before, but I'll just run through it. What funds revenue requirement is basically our rate revenue, non-rate revenue, and some non-retail revenue. You see the 4 components of our rate revenue: commodity sale, which is volume, service charges, drainage revenue, as well as fire line revenue. those four make up our total rate revenue. And then we have a non-rate revenue section, which is permits and fees, etc., that we charge our customers for our various services we offer. And the bottom of the slide is what makes up the non-retail revenue. It's shared services revenue. Basically, between GLWA and us, we provide service to each other, and we charge. There's an expense component, which is part of our expense structure, and then also shared services revenue. Industrial waste charges is another component of non-retail revenue. And finally, the GLWA share of legacy costs. GLWA share of pension is initially included in our expense, but then we get reimbursed for their share of costs. And that's what is here, and that offsets our overall revenue requirement. All right, you've seen this again. I just want to focus on the lower part of the slide here. We look at the total revenue requirement of $543.8 million. Those are all offset by the service charges, the GLWA share of pension, and IWC, as well as the permits fees included in non-rate revenue. So if you back out all those from our overall revenue requirement, we arrive at what we call rate revenue requirement. So that's a 4.9% increase over FY26. Just telling you what makes up the biggest chunk of our revenue structure. It's the commodity charges for both water and sewer. And then drainage charges makes up the second biggest part of this pie chart. The next two slides is just a breakdown of our revenues and expenses by fund. This one is for water fund, and then the next one is sewer fund. So you can see what makes up the commodities sales as well as expenses for each of these funds. You can go move on here tomorrow. This is the water fund, and the next one is the sewer fund. So I don't intend going line by line here, but it's basically informational to see what makes up each fund's revenues and expenses. Then we go to the next slide. All right, no, go back, Tamara. Go back. One more? Yes. All right, so this is summarizing, as we talk about our revenue requirements increase, and I also mentioned that revenue requirement increase is offset by increase in our volume, whether it be in volume charges or be it in meters and meter counts. This kind of summarizes where we stand in terms of those items. For example, tier 1 volume, we are projecting will increase at 2.4%. In FY27, similar increase is projected for tier 2 volume, which is at 2.4% in the top section of the slide. When you look at the middle section of the slide, it's service charges. These are also projected to increase between 2.2 to 3.2%, depending on the line you look at, whether it's customer meters, service line equivalents, or connections equivalent. But on an overall basis, these increases offset the increase in revenue requirement or expenses. So at the end of the day, if you look at the volumetric charges, although it increased by 5.9, it got offset and settling at a volume rate per MCF, it's 3.5%. The next slide breaks down your sewer revenues, both for volume as well as service charges and drainage. And if you look at the increase in volume, we are projecting sewer increase, volume increase at 1%. That'll bring again the rate for sewer volume per MCF at 3.5%. The bottom side slide is the drainage charges. There's a 1.1% impervious acre increase projection, but I want to let you know here that this projection is a little aggressive in terms of the growth for BIA. Every year we have a flyover data concept where the actual BI is measured through a flyover technique. That's not happening till August. And if it happens and if it doesn't come close to our projection, we may have to change this increase in BIA at a later date, probably midway through the fiscal year, I would say in December, most likely. But that information will not be available till August. So here we are projecting a little bit aggressive, 1.1%, keeping our rate at 3.5%. Down below is drainage charge credits. I just want to explain these credits are for customers. The two classes of credits we offer. One is called the residential credits. All residential customers get a 25% credit on their drainage bills if they satisfy certain conditions. For example, if they disconnect their downspouts. So 25% credit for them. For non-residential customers, we offer green credits, which is if the customers, well, the green credit is offered to all customers, whether it's residential or non-residential. But this credit is basically if the customer makes an arrangement to divert our stormwater or rainwater on their own to some kind of a pond or another drainage system does not include or use our drainage system, then we give them credit. So green credit plus residential credit is projected to increase about $2 million over for FY27. The next slide is a summary of all our 15 FTEs that are increasing. As you can see here, most of them are focused in our operations. Meter operation is increasing by 5. Maintenance, repairs, and fleet by 2 each. Organization development, that big negative is not really a negative. Those folks were in organization HR department, they all moved to security. So you'll see a increase in security offset by the decrease in org development. We are not increasing in any field engineering FTEs nor in lead service internal program. We'll stay at 72 and 25 respectively. And then finally, we arrive at our summary of rates. This summarizes our rates compared to FY26 for Tier 1, Tier 2 service charges, as well as for sewer fund, volumetric service and drainage charge. What you can see from here is a 3.5% increase across the board for water service, sewer service, as well as drainage. The sewer service charge for water is at 3.6, service charge for sewer at 3.4. If you combine the two, it ends up in being 3.5. The point that I want to highlight here is the 3.5% increase translates to, for the water fund, the 3.5% increase translates to 96 cents per MCF. Each MCF makes up 7,480 gallons of water. So if you convert that into gallons, the increase is less than 1 cent per gallon for both the tiers. So I want to focus on that because most people go by gallons rather than MCF, and that increase is less than 1 cent. If you look at just the sheer increase in the rate, the new tier 1 rate of 28.57 comes to 0.004 cost cent per gallon for tier 1 and 0.007 cent cost per gallon for tier 2 customers. The 3.5% for volumetric charges for the sewer fund of $2.12 increase. Again, if you convert, that's in MCF, but if you convert to gallons, it comes to, again, less than 1 cent increase for 27 compared to 26. Sewer service rates increasing by 30 cents and 24 cents respectively. And this is per equivalent unit per month for both the charges. And then our drainage charges, as I mentioned, is increasing 3.5% after all the credits. The next 2 slides summarizes our service fee and penalties. So service fees are fees that we charge our customers for various services that we offer. You can see on the service type. The thing is, we are not changing any of these charges. All of the charges in FY 27 are remaining the same compared to FY 26. However, there's a new additional item on the chart. If you look at the bottom, the easement encroachment permit fee, that's a new item for FY 27 that wasn't there in FY 26. Other than that, all our charges are same compared to FY 26. So this chart is service type. The next slide is for penalties. And to conclude, all of these costs and initiatives that we take, there's a reason for it. There's a value-added component that occurs throughout the proposed budget year. The goal is to clean 600 miles of sewer to provide capacity to current designs. And the whole 5-year goal is to clean the entire system. We inspect and clean 8,000 catch basins to reduce street flooding. And also when it comes to lead service line, replace at least 3,500 lead service line. If we get additional state or federal funding, that could increase to 8,000 miles. Our overall goal is to remove all lines within the next 10 years. This year alone, since 2018, we have replaced over 15,000 lead service lines. We also plan on painting fire hydrants, 5,000 of them. And then we, of course, continue to provide and procure resources to support water affordability through our Lifeline plan, also our Easy Pay, which is very effective payment plan, to benefit our customers in keeping water services on and also improving our collection rate. The next steps here would be, today we will be seeking your approval of the FY 27 final proposed operating budget, as well as the rates and schedule fees for FY 27. And then we'll be looking at you to make a final recommendation to the full board, which meets on March 18 to review this budget and approve it. The City of Detroit Council will meet tomorrow and we'll go through our budget at that time. And finally, once our board approves it on March 18th, our full rates and charges will be effective July 1, 2026. That concludes my presentation. I will answer any question you have.
Thank you, as usual, CFO Raman, for a very comprehensive review. Are there questions or comments?
Yes. What do you think are the biggest challenges with regard to our finances in the next fiscal year?
The concern continues to be collection. Our receivable balances keep going up, although we have Lifeline as well as Easy Pay. But what really concerns me is our collection. The national average for collection in a best practice way is 95%. Our collection, especially for residential customers, is hovering around high 70s or low 80s. So that certainly is a concern for me. And then the second concern I have is our aging infrastructure. Of course, 100 years old, and we're drying up of federal money. We got to look at different ways and different avenues for, we got to take care of these infrastructure assets. So we got to think about ways and means to get funding for, to at least keep these assets improving. Because if we don't, our maintenance cost goes up, which reflects negatively on our ratepayers.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. Thanks for the question. Are there any other questions? Comments? Thoughts? If not, we do have a motion on the floor to make this recommendation for approval. Hearing no other questions, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion is approved. And we'll move on to the next item, which is item 2026-66. May we have a motion, please?
Madam Chair,
Madam-
you know,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
okay. I move that we approve the proposed schedule of the Detroit retail water and sewer rates and fees consistent with the proposed 2026-27 revenue requirements and water and sewage system budgets approved by the Board of Water Commissioners on March 18, 2026. I guess that will be approved. And authorize the director and the chief financial officer to take appropriate actions consistent with this motion.
Thank you. Is there support for the motion? I support it. At this point in time, I think we're going to have comments from our CFO.
Yeah, so I went through the rates slide as well as the schedule of fees and penalties in my previous presentation. So there's no additional presentation. But if you look at this is a summary of all the rates. This is exactly the same as was in the presentation. And then this is the schedule of fees that was in your presentation as well. So seeking your approval and recommendation for these rates and charges and fees to the full board.
All right, the rate adjustment is part of the motion. Correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, we have a resolution here. Do we need to also read the full resolution?
I will leave that to our general counsel.
Yes.
I think it's incorporated by reference.
Okay.
That's correct. I think that you can, this is Scott McGriff, General Counsel. I believe that you can read the motion and you don't have to go through the entire resolution.
Okay.
And we've read the motion.
And we've read the motion.
Okay.
So I think we're ready for the vote now. I don't hear any other questions or comments. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion is approved. So thank you all. Are there any other matters to come before this Finance Committee? Hearing
No.
none, we do not have a next meeting scheduled. This is a special meeting, as you know. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move, Madam Chair.
And I second.
Thank you. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have a next committee, but it doesn't start until 2 p.m.